Hello, hello, hello. Thank you for coming on to Rise to the Top with Realvolve. My name is Kendyl Young, the self-appointed director of excitement here at the company. I'm also a working selling broker. I'm out there in the trenches just like all ya alls. And so I propose to Dave, who is always great with wonderful ideas, that as a company, we should really walk our walk and figure out how to help agents not only do more business, but have a life while doing it. And one of the ways that I wanted to do that was to talk to agents who are high performing. And high performing doesn't necessarily mean doing hundreds of transactions every month. High performing might be that they're just doing a kick-ass quality business and taking no prisoners while they're doing it. Which brings me to my guest today, which is Page Huyette. Huyette, right?
Hyatt.
Did I say Huyette? Page Huyette. She is in Montana, which, based on the pictures I'm seeing out of Montana, yesterday got rid of their snow. Okay,
For now.
I'm already what?
For
Wait,
now.
okay, yeah. Oh God. Okay, see, like I can't. All right, we'll talk about snow later. Anyway, so Paige has been a real estate agent for 4.5 years. She came off of 20 plus years as a landscape architect. And when I mean architect, I don't mean someone who puts pansies in the ground. I mean somebody who has deep, deep design experience and education. She not only was a working landscape architect, but she also taught that at a very high level. And she knew how to market her own business and then transitioned into real estate. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. And used her sense of design as well as her ability to run a business to really launch a kick ass business really, really quickly. 4.5 years is not very long. And she's doing amazing. Like some of us, well, like me, Paige quickly figured out that the brokerages that were available to her in her own area did not serve the marketing or branding needs that she needed. And so she went on her own. So she owns her own brokerage, which for the moment is solo, but by tomorrow she'll have 100 agents. I'm perfectly sure about that. Uh, she is in the process of hiring her first administrative person, which goes right into her use of Realvolve. Um, and the name of her brand, her brokerage is Montana Good Life Properties, in case y'all want to look her up. She does primarily single family dwellings, but there is some investment and a little bit of land, a little bit of commercial thrown in there. And she does, in her first year, she did 12 properties, and now she's on track to do about 60. So when I say kick ass and growing, people, you want to perk your ears up and listen to what she's doing. Her prior use of CRMs was Top Producer, iExact, and Razio. So she has a little bit of experience of what other CRMs does. We're going to unpack a little bit on why she chose Realvolve and why. But as most of you who have been on this webinar know, we're not only here to talk about Realvolve, we're here to talk about some of the more important reasons to unpack what makes Page so awesome. So welcome, Paige.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
I'm excited. I've been excited about this talk for a while now. I've been wanting to talk to you because you've been such an amazing contributor to our Realvolve community. And so often when you say something or ask a question, I'm in the background, right on, girlfriend, good question. So I'm a big fan, have been for a while. So that's why I was excited to have this conversation. So let's talk right away about what the people are expecting, which is Realvolve and how you use it. Oh, before you do that, I just want to remind everybody, as we're talking, if you have questions, over here to the right is a control panel. And if you can type in your questions in that control panel, and I will try to answer them as we go along. So I'm monitoring them. For questions that are not directly to Paige, I've got John, who's our marketing guy, in the background, and he will answer things that are really not pursuant to conversation. But anything that goes to asking Paige questions or me, type them in, and I'll get to as many as I possibly can. All right, so just don't forget that. Okay, anyway, so Paige, darling.
Yes.
So you're working Realvolve, you had a bunch of CRMs before. Can you tell me what gave you pain in your business prior to coming to Realvolve?
Uh, well, I worked as an assistant to another licensed agent before I transitioned full-time to real estate. So I learned some of the nuts and bolts of transaction management, but I still didn't really know everything, all the details that went into the day-to-day management on both sides of transactions. And it just seemed like the other CRMs demanded that I knew that already.
Oh,
So, and I think that's a problem with a lot of other agents that they start out in the business and they don't know what they don't know.
hmm
I see that a lot. So I knew enough to get myself in trouble, but I didn't know enough to be able
to
to
be
really
prudent.
hone in and dial in a
Yeah.
really great system to manage my clients. And then when I found Realvolve, I actually found it through the paperless agent with
hmm
Gary Weiss down in Austin. So
Shout out to the Weiss, to
yeah,
Paperless
yeah.
Agent. Shout out.
They're great. I recommend them for everyone too. They, I believe, use Realvolve, and that's how I discovered Realvolve. And I had been using Recio prior to that, which is a very graphic, sort of visual interface, which is me. I'm very visual, but it just was clunky and difficult to manage. And I still was faced with not being able to get really dialed in. So
Mhm.
using Realvolve with a paperless agent, um, workflows that they offer, that really just got me going.
Right. So the paperless agent workflows helped to educate you on all those granular little details that you really didn't know because you hadn't been a working agent.
Yeah, I
Okay.
think it got me started on understanding how many details are out there. So I
Right.
took their workflows and then customized them and filled in the blanks from there. So it was a template to start from.
Right. And most of you, I think, on the webinar are existing Realvolve customers. You probably know this, but in case any of you are not, one of our superpowers is that we have something, think of it like a Google Play Store or an Apple Store, where you can buy the workflows that other agents have developed, such as myself, such as paperless agents. Some come from coaches, some are based on company philosophy like the Keller Williams stuff that allow you to just download it and good to go right out the box. So that's great that you were able to use that. And so beyond not knowing what granular you needed to do, what other pain points really helped you? Did it decrease your stress level at all?
Well, definitely. I'm sort of an adrenaline junkie, so I like to, I call it the magpie effect. It's like a shiny object, and I think a lot of agents suffer from that. I'm going to buy that. That'll solve my problem. I'm going to do that. Oh, that looks really cool. So if you don't have a system set up in place, your days can just be ruined and chaotic, which
Mhm.
I felt like I was getting into that whirlwind and not able to get out of it really early on. So I felt like I needed something to be methodical and to move forward day by day so I didn't get stressed out and so I had balance.
Right.
So that
And
was
you
that
were
was
sharing
a
this
biggie.
Yeah, you were sharing a story with me in our prep call about how you got really busy and you actually stopped using Realvolve for a little
Yes,
while.
I did. That
Can you
was
tell
not
me?
too long ago. Really,
No.
I know, which, it's a learning experience. I just got bombarded suddenly, and for whatever reason, I started relying on my little monkey brain to keep everything on track. And I realized I was up at night again. And I was sleeping really well for a while until I moved away from Realvolve. Then all of a sudden I was doing that thing at night. We're going, I forgot to call him. I need initials on that. And I went, I am not using my workflows for Realvolve. So I forced myself to go back. I don't know why I left. I think I just got busy and shifted. And I realized that I needed to go back. That was just a very
Have
brief time.
you
It was
learned your
a couple of
lesson?
weeks.
Okay. All
Lesson
right.
learned, lesson learned. So, and it also taught me how much I do rely on it when I
Right.
left it.
Yeah. I mean, you started to take it for granted, probably. You're like,
I
yeah, I
did.
got this. I know what to do. Right.
Exactly. That's what happened.
Right.
And
Yeah.
that's not the case.
Yeah.
Could do it
And
on
at
my
the
own.
rate that you're growing, Paige, I got to tell you, I can handle personally, if I'm by myself, I can handle about 10 transactions all at once, but I have no life if I'm doing that.
Yeah.
And now we can handle 10 transactions and I don't think we even break a sweat. I don't think it's like there's plenty of time to pee and go for ice cream.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think the point is I don't want to handle all of those transactions in my brain. That's
Right.
that's what it's given me is there's no reason to do it because it can handle it for me. And I've read
Right.
somewhere that our brains prioritize everything as top priority. I read that
Hmm.
somewhere. So, our brains aren't good at putting things in order. So that's what Realvolve does.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So a lot of people, a major um, problem with really rocking and rolling with Realvolve is learning how to do workflows. For many, the process is overwhelming, and they don't know how to get to the point where the light turns on. Although people, it's worth it to get to that point because it's just the most magical thing ever. That aside, Paige, how did you learn workflows? I mean, feel free to be as granular as you want to be, but what kind of got you started?
Well, I was overwhelmed too. It is overwhelming, and I think that's why a lot of people try it and then bail because they just are looking for a plug and play kind of thing. I don't think there is a CRM out there that's plug and play that's going to work
Well, sure
really,
they are.
really
They just
well.
don't do anything.
Right. Well, exactly. So something that's going to work well or successfully. So I struggled. I was frustrated. I learned things really quickly, especially on the computer. So the fact that I couldn't pick it up was very annoying to me. Um, I ended up buying your suite of workflows as well
Thank you.
at some point, and that gave me another shell or template to work from in addition to the paperless agent ones. So yours were a little bit more detailed and expansive. So I took those, but a lot of it didn't apply. So it
Hmm.
gave me an opportunity to dig in and say, get rid of that, customize that, change that text, make it more personal. But again, I tried initially creating my own from scratch, which I can do now, but I don't recommend doing that off the bat. I think it's just too much to take in while you're trying to run a
Hmm.
business.
Hmm. So what worked for you was taking the paperless templates and the Dig Suite and diving into those and figuring out, oh, this part doesn't apply to me in exactly this way. I'm going to change it. And it was that editing of something existing
Yes,
that taught you enough that then you could go and write your own workflows, right?
exactly. Yeah, I'm a designer, so I have to change everything. Even if it doesn't need to be changed, I feel like I have to get in there and get my fingers all over it.
Mhm.
So having,
Absolutely. You were absolutely going to do the better mousetrap, hands down,
yeah, and
hands
sometimes I
down.
realize I'm not doing a better job, but that's my curve. But I go in and I can tweak, and that was gratifying to me that I had something I
Mhm.
could start with, but then I could really go in, I could write it out, change some text so it reflected my personality. Now I'm
Right.
actually moving towards customizing those templates so they reflect anyone's personality in my brokerage who might
Okay.
use them.
Right.
So I'm moving from a me to an us and we kind of thing, and it
So it
works.
sounds like you are thinking that Realvolve might be part of your expansion path, that
Oh yeah,
bringing agents in. So
yeah.
say more about that, because I think there's probably many people on this phone call that would love to have, if not a brokerage, then to have a team and to expand that. So say more about how you're going to be using Realvolve to make that happen.
Couple ways. I have an onboarding workflow that I've created. That's everything from make sure they fill out the tax forms to week one training on Realvolve. So whatever it is that I need a new hire to do, whether they're an agent or an admin, there's a workflow for that. So if I'm not in the office, they're not just sitting there going like this, going, "Where's Paige?" They can go in and they know that it's day 6 of their hiring. I know what I need to do for them, and they know what they need to do. So
Mm-hmm.
um, there's that, and then also, yeah, really, that's been key in preparing to hire my first admin, which I'm currently recruiting for and interviewing, is
Okay, there you
making
go.
sure that those workflows are at a point where they can then take them over and make them better. So I can pull away from constantly obsessing and revising, and they can then take that on. So it's something I can pass along to someone I hire to manage and be responsible for.
You appear to me as someone who has really high quality standards, and maybe delegating to another person could be difficult.
Do you think?
I'm just making a little bit of a guess there.
Yeah,
so, so,
yeah.
so is having the systems in Realvolve, is that an integral part of your ability to hire and trust an admin?
It it's almost prevented me because I'm such a perfectionist and my standards are so high. I felt like
Hmm.
initially everything had to be ready for them, but now I've
Okay.
realized moving away from that and
Hmm.
maturing in my view of my business that it just needs to be at a point where I can oversee it or I can advise and
Hmm.
still be
Hmm.
part of it. When I was a designer, I knew how to do AutoCAD, but then as I moved along, I hired someone to do it for me. I had to speak the language, but I wasn't
Hmm.
at the computer every day. Same thing with
Right,
Realvolve.
right. Okay.
That I no longer want to be digging in every day, but I have to speak the language to understand how to help them.
You have to know what Realvolve can do in order to tell the,
Exactly.
right? I
Right. Right.
totally get that. That's why I had to learn web design because I couldn't hire a web designer until I knew what
Same
the heck
thing.
web designers did.
Have to talk, speak of the language.
I speak the language so that I know when they're trying to riff me too. So
Yes.
there you go.
Right. Exactly. True.
So um, we want to not only run amazing businesses, we want to have amazing lives. So you're still so relatively new in your business and you've been growing at a pretty fast pace. Can you talk a little bit about what, if anything, Realvolve does to allow you to have a little bit of work-life balance? Or do you? Maybe you don't.
What it does. I can talk about, well, I know there are some other tools that I use with Realvolve. Um,
Hmm.
so it's sort of my foundation or my anchor.
Hmm.
I've just started using BombBomb. I used it when it first came out, maybe
Yep.
4 or 5 years
Me too.
ago, because I'm always got to be the first person to use things. And then I cast it aside. I just went back. I do a lot of video, but I do YouTube and things like that. So I just started in with BombBomb again. I'm hoping to integrate that
Hmm.
um, just to make it easier for me. So if I want to shoot a video of wherever I am, I don't have to download it and figure out all that stuff. It can just go right to Realvolve and go out to my list. So that will save me time. It's a scheduling tool for me.
Okay.
What I've also started doing recently is using it with Google. So I use Google G Suite, I think they call it, where I have my own
Okay.
domain.
Yeah.
Um, I just discovered the ability in Realvolve where each transaction has its own email.
Yes.
So exciting. So
Yes.
nerdy, but so exciting. So sometimes if I send an email from Gmail, I'll BCC it into my Realvolve. And I
Hmm.
just think, I don't know why, I just think that's really cool to be able to cross-talk to each other. Um, and on G,
I've got to, I've got to pro tip for you on that one. We'll talk about that later.
okay, good. On
Yeah.
Gmail, the other thing that I do in conjunction with that is I use Boomerang, which talking about balance, work-life balance is it's an email app, I guess, or add-on that allows you to send emails
An
later. So if I'm
extension.
writing an email at a weird time, I don't usually work
Hmm.
very late, but I can schedule it to send at 8:05 a.m. the next day. So
Hmm.
it's first in the inbox of whomever it's getting. I'm not
Right.
sending some weird random email at 10:30 where they're going, "Why is she working?" So I can control when
Hmm.
people get my information and I'm not having to be at my desk.
Yeah,
So
that's a really, really great tool, Boomerang.
I love
For
it.
a while, I was using Yesware, which was even better, but Yesware conflicts with BombBomb, so
Mm,
I couldn't use it anymore. Yesware, no, 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 it was Mixmax that I was using. Oh God, that was amazing. But all right, so got a little off topic there, but it just seemed like
well,
a
the
super
work-life
cool.
balance. So the work-life
Yeah.
balance, Realvolve is that again that foundation. So if I step away from my computer to go have dinner with my husband or whatever, walk my dogs
Hmm.
at 5:30, when I wake up in the morning after I do my other morning things before work, um, Realvolve's on the computer. It's there, and I go, okay, where did I leave off? And I can just
Hmm.
pick right up again instead of thinking, what was I supposed to do? It's still there, and
Right,
it's
right,
right
right. When you're creating business, what's your primary method of creating business?
there. Creating meaning getting new
Yeah, I mean, like,
clients.
do you door knock? Do you, what do you tend to do to create new transactions, new clients?
I primarily focus on people that I already know.
Okay,
I'm very social
me
by
too.
nature, but I don't like going out into forced networking situations.
Okay,
It's part of that feeling fake kind of thing. I don't like, I do fine once I'm there,
right.
but it's not something I kind of have an ugh feeling when I have to go do something and meet people and network.
Yeah,
So I
yeah.
focus
Stranger
primarily,
danger.
yeah, when I'm there, it's never as bad as I think it's going to be, but it's really just focusing on the people that I know that I've worked with or are friendly with, and I can
Hmm.
be myself. I can just be
Hmm.
myself, and they understand the value of what I do for a living, and
Hmm.
that's where most of my business comes from.
Do you ever use the power of Realvolve for like tagging or categorizing as a tool for communicating with people you already know?
Yes. One of the ways I use tags is if someone calls me or contacts me about a property I've listed or have shown them or something, primarily listings. I'll tag that person with the address in the city that they've
Hmm.
contacted me about. So when a new
Hmm.
listing comes up, whether it's mine or someone else's, I send them an email template that's a listing alert to everyone that
Okay,
has that tag. So they
right,
all get a
right.
listing alert for that neighborhood or somewhere near that address. So I use it for that.
That's totally awesome. Have you ever tried, I just, this is off topic a little bit, but have you ever tried having tags for like a shared interest? Like we have tags for soccer mommies because soccer's
Yeah,
a big
no,
thing
I
out here.
love that idea. Um, I just get so tag crazy.
Yeah,
Sometimes I step away from the tags.
yeah.
Step away.
You're talking to a woman who has 368 tags and growing, so
I
don't
probably
even.
have at least that many. Yeah, so yeah, there's always room for improvement the way I see it. So
Right?
I'll check that out.
Okay. Angela, she wants me to go back to that little, pro tip that I was talking about. All right. So this was where we're saying you have transaction emails and you copy the transaction email and you can CC that so it goes into the transaction. I can make it happen automatically. So
Oh,
cool. What you
cool.
do is you take the transaction email. So Angela, you might want to talk to help about this. I don't want to jump into a screen share, but there's a little I next to the address on the transaction. If you click that, that will give you the unique email address for that transaction. Mark calls it a Dropbox, which is really confusing. Okay, but it's the unique email. It's really good. We've gotten into arguments over that. So not you, Mark. See the other Mark. Anyway, so there's that. And if you take that and you add that as an email for your client or your escrow officer or whatever, every time you send an email in Gmail or even receive an email from Gmail, it now becomes part of that client record. It's super cool.
My
It's
day
just
is better.
super
My
cool.
day has
Yeah,
just
right.
been
Okay.
it's wonderful.
Yeah. You wanna talk about, cool stuff. I collect
Let's go.
cool stuff like, whatever. Okay, do we use Realvolve for anything outside of real estate? Yeah, I use it to run, events at digs. Do you use it for anything outside of real
Uh,
estate?
I use it. Sometimes I rent properties for clients. I don't do property management necessarily, but I'll
Yeah.
place clients. I'll do it for that.
Technically that's still part of real estate.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think I've dabbled in non-real estate items, but no, I think it's just best left for real estate, in my opinion.
So yeah, Angela, so I hack Realvolve to do like whatever it is I want because that's who I am. I'm a hacker. And I like to use it to run events. So like we have an art event here, any special event actually. I'll just hijack different date fields and roles. And I usually have a glossary right within the workflow that says, open house equals, destaging or whatever it is that I'm hijacking. I just use it for that. I don't necessarily recommend it, but I like having as few tools as possible. So, as Alton Braun says, we can't have a kitchen gadget that only does one thing. Unitaskers are not allowed. Okay, so let's talk. We've been talking about um, cool little things that people can kind of like maybe duplicate or use, like that transaction thing. And I asked you to kind of think about some of that so that we can share some stuff with our users. Come up with anything good?
Well, the one that I think is pretty cool
Uh,
is
please tell us.
and we talked about that already, is my buyer and seller intelligence workflows. And those are sort of a mishmash Dropbox of all the stuff that I need to share to people that I've shared more than once. So that's where Realvolve is great. If you're writing an email more than once, it's a template. If I'm sharing information we do a lot of radon testing here in
Okay.
Montana. People always have questions. Most people don't know what the heck radon is or why it's important. Taxes, appealing taxes, that kind of thing. Anytime there's something that has come up more than once, it gets dumped into my buyer intelligence or seller intelligence workflows. and that cross.
Workflows, we remember they're more like templates, right? It's
Well,
not a it's not
right,
a standard
right,
thing.
right.
It's
Yes. Well, I have them
individual letters.
coded as a
Right,
BW001 or SW for seller, no, SI or BI, seller
right,
intelligence. So I can find them, so I can test
right,
them. And
right.
that's something I learned from your templates is they're all coded, which was another huge thing for me is
Yeah.
I could never find the templates because I'm template happy and I have thousands just wandering about in Realvolve. Now, if it's something about that a buyer needs to know, it's a BI 003 or BI 004, so I can just type in BI and all those will come up. So it
All of
filters.
the choices come up as
Yes.
templates that you could use.
Yeah.
It's really funny. After you and I had that conversation in the pre-call, I realized that I actually do that too. Most of my letters, template letters, are attached to a workflow action, but
Right.
I have a very few that are not. And one of my most used ones is when somebody is going to meet me. Like if I
Mm,
make a meeting for
yes.
agent recruiting or they're going to come to my office, whatever. And I've got one because the parking situation around here is kind of cray cray. So he's like, there's just one template. It's called meeting you.
I have one of those
And
too. Yeah.
right. And oh, but wait. Do you do this where on the client record there is there's a field that Mark added. I love Mark. He gives me Christmas presents all the time. He added next appointment and next appointment time. Did you see that?
Oh no.
Oh, yeah. It's on the right-hand column. So
I'll write
it's
that
next appointment date, next appointment time. And so my template says,
down. Has
look forward to meeting you at bracket, bracket, next appointment date, at bracket, bracket, next appointment time. We're meeting at Diggs. Here's how
I
you
love
get it.
that.
It's so cool. Okay, anyway, sorry,
No, I've
geeking
got I've got
out.
the same thing because it's my office doesn't have a street address. It's a little bit unusual. It's a
See?
it's a grain silo, so it's
That's so
circular
cool.
and it doesn't have an address out front. So people fly by it, and so I have to describe in my meeting email exactly where it is and what it looks like, and I get to put a little picture of my cute little grain bin silo office in the email so people can visually find it. So that's
Okay,
one that's one that's in those intelligence templates. But I
Sandy.
also cross-reference those intelligence templates with my blog categories, buyer and seller intelligence. So
Right. Okay, so before we get into the how awesome is Paige as a human being, Laura Sosnowski wants to know how do you use the A, B, C, D categories, or do you?
I do. They're less important to me than they used to be.
Okay.
I think I first learned how to use them from the Paperless Agent. They have a method. So I started with that. I don't grade vendors. So that was a biggie for me is if you're a lender or an inspector, none of them are A, B, C, or D. That doesn't exist on their profiles. They have tags, whether or not they're vendors and what type of vendor they are. So if you're a lender, you'd be vendor and lender, vendor, lender. Um, so I don't use it for vendors. I use it based on how active people are in my sphere, more so than what I hope them to be. So
So
even
give
if
us a description. Who would be an A? How active are they? How do you know they're that active?
A's are clients who have referred me. Everyone becomes an A as soon as I start working with them. If they don't refer me, they become a B. And
Okay,
that's
so you're
only
it's an opt-out kind of a thing,
no,
right?
it's only because about every month I go through the different letters and I move people around. So I'll look at all the A's, I might shift them down. I'll look at a B, I might shift them up. So it's a moving target. If someone's actively just recently referred me, they're high on my sort of radar. But if they're B, they might be becoming an A. So I review those letters
So
constantly.
hold up. So here's what I'm hearing, Paige. Sounds to me like your Realvolve database is a living, breathing thing.
Oh yeah, it's constantly changing. Yeah.
That's not what most real estate agents use it for. They use it for a repository of dead leads, honestly. It's just like
Yeah,
stick it in there, never look back.
yeah, and I,
And you,
I don't know what to do with those dead leads. I think it was addressed on one of your former webinars. You said
everybody has a
you
different
get rid of
way.
them if after they go through a workflow and they don't
Yeah.
respond. I have trouble getting rid of people in my database, mainly because if they come back again, I want to know that they were here before. So I'm not quite sure
Yeah.
what to do with them.
trust me, after 31 years, you get rid of people.
I'm getting
In four
they
and a
can
half
go
years, I
into
keep
spread,
everybody.
they can go to spreadsheet oblivion, I think.
Yeah, see, my contacts wouldn't fit on a freaking spreadsheet. So,
Yeah. So,
see, I guess, and of course, I'm also the person who got rid of 75% of my personal worldly goods because I wanted to simplify. So,
well,
whatever.
you know,
Let's see. All right, so let's get into part. She's like, I don't want to talk about this stuff. It's like, oh, you're talking about it, honey.
okay,
People
bring
need
it
to
on.
know. All right. When people come back to you or they refer you or they're just talking about you in a grocery store, what do you think is your most mentioned or your most mentioned skill, service, tool, attribute? It's pretty wide open here. What do people talk about when they talk about Page?
I think that I am a great sounding board for their goals. Uh, I like to be very genuine with people with my opinion of what they're trying to do with their lives when they're buying or selling homes. And I present myself as someone they can be very honest and open with,
Mhm.
even if it means not selling that house or not buying that house. I allow them to ask the hard questions, and I feel like they know that I'll give them an honest answer based on what I think is best for them, not
Mhm.
me.
Mhm. Mhm. A lot of people think that's what they do.
Right.
Um, my my read of you is that you're more conscientious about that than most. And it could be from some of the things that you've experienced in your life beforehand. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Well, I'm very self-effacing. I have no problem riffing on myself, and I think that puts people at ease. I don't walk around all fancy pants,
You're
so I
not a
think,
snooty patootie?
no, I try not to be. And when I catch myself feeling like I'm spouting out about that, I can sort of slap myself around and throw water on myself and just make sure that I'm grounded. I'm told a lot that I'm very easy to talk to, and I think that comes from working as a landscape architect for so many years and sitting at people's tables while the wife and husband and wife are fighting with each other and I'm holding them apart while they're throwing jabs at each other. Just that experience of constantly trying to weed through all the muckety muck and all the everything. The same
Right.
thing with real estate and just get to the heart of it of what is it we're trying to do here? Are we trying to create a new lifestyle? Are we trying to get rid of stuff in our lives that we don't want? Because that's what buying a home or selling a home is. You're making a
Right.
huge shift.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
I let people get there and I'll ask whatever that question is that comes out that I can see that they're trying to struggle with and I just say it. And as soon as I say it, they just kind of their shoulders kind of relax. And I just had that happen the other day where I could tell she was tortured by something about this property. And I just said, just say it. And she said it. And I think people are really grateful that they can be honest with me
So
about.
it sounds like you are more focused on the person than you are the house.
Yeah, because we spend so much time with our clients. It's really hard work, despite what a lot of people think. It
Nobody on this webinar is thinking that,
Thank
girlfriend, but
you.
yes, I get you.
It's hard work, and when you take in people's emotions and their anger and their fears and their finances, there's a lot of energy that goes into it. So,
Hmm.
for me, working with people that I really want to be around,
Hmm.
um, it makes it just that much more enjoyable for me. I figure I'm in this for the long haul, so why not work with people who aren't jerks? And I'm
Yeah,
not afraid to kind of weed through to get to
right,
the goodies.
right, exactly. Besides a kick-ass CRM that you obviously have, what investment have you made, ideally under $100, that have made a great difference, have contributed to your life or your business?
The under 100 is a tough one because not
It
much
could
costs under
it could be
$100 in real estate.
well, it could be a tool, it could be a book, it could be a gadget, it could be anything.
I'd say a couple books, which I brought. This one, Million Dollar Real Estate Team,
That's a good one.
which is
That's a
by
great
Bradley
one.
Downs and Chris Waters down in Austin. That was really helpful to me as a true guide on what to buy, what to do, what not to do, how to hire, sort of a to-do guide. The other is a book called Double Double by, I want to say, Cameron Harold. I actually put
Mm-hmm.
together a page on my website that it's not completely built yet, but it's montanagoodlife.com/agent-intelligence. So
Mm-hmm.
after this webinar, I'll dump everything that I talk about on that page, and
Okay,
anyone can go to
excellent.
that, including links to the books. But Double Double talks about how to forward think where you want to be instead of just
Mm-hmm.
trolling day by day, and then
Mm-hmm.
reverse engineer it back to today and how you get there. So
Mm-hmm.
those two books have been really instrumental, and I find myself weekly going back to those.
Okay.
Um, oh, probably selfie stick.
Oh, there you go.
Cheap, what, $8, $9? So
Yeah.
because I shoot a lot of spontaneous video with my iPhone,
Mm-hmm.
and shaky hands productions, it gets a little bit hard for people to see. So this helps straighten it out and make it look semi-professional. I
Mm-hmm.
try to just shoot it and not worry about it rather than being frustrated over it being not perfect. So
Right.
the selfie stick is a biggie.
I love it. You've
Yeah,
heard it here. The secret to Paige's success is the selfie
yeah,
stick.
it's kind of corny, but I don't know. I use it a lot. The other would be the pipeline planner. I know everybody has their planners, but I use this one. It's by Melissa, I think Zavala. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a great real estate planner.
Mm-hmm.
And what I like about that is it's not dated. So
Right.
if you leave it alone and ignore it for 4 months, you can come back and start without feeling like you're behind. So it doesn't
Okay.
judge.
Okay. Okay. Sometimes I need to be judged. I'm just saying. Okay. So you've been on a pretty steep trajectory in terms of personal growth and business growth. Um, and with great results generally comes with great growth. So can you give us an idea of what, I don't know if new beliefs is the right thing, but what are the beliefs, either new or just endemic with who you are, or behaviors or habits that has really allowed you to be on this quick 4.5 year journey? Can you share with
Yeah,
us some of that?
I think a biggie for me is not starting out every day on my phone or computer. Um,
Okay.
as a rule, probably for it's only been maybe 6 months now. When I wake up, I don't look at my phone. I don't go to my computer.
Okay.
I try to meditate. I'm not very good at it. And that can mean a lot of
Try
different
that
things.
Headspace app. That Headspace app
Yeah,
is
I haven't tried
everything.
that yet, but that's on my
It's
list.
good. It's good.
So I just sit and then I write every morning. I write 3 pages. There's a site called 750words.com.
Mm-hmm.
And even if you're not a writer, it's great because you can just sort of brain dump whatever it is. Sometimes it'll be lists about work. I try to keep it non-work related. So sometimes I write letters to my kids. Sometimes I write letters to my friends. I just write. So I start each day not in real estate. And that has been huge for me to just sort of level everything out
Yeah.
and ground me.
Love that.
Yeah,
Love
yeah.
it.
What else?
Okay. Let's see. You had something else you wanted to
Well,
say?
just ending the day the same way.
Yeah.
I try not to work Sundays.
Uh-huh.
Um, and if I work Saturdays, it's light work, so I don't power through. And I try to work really hard, regular hours during the week,
Hmm.
and don't work late at night. And I learned that the hard way from other careers, that it just doesn't pay off and you get
Right.
unbalanced. I try to be very balanced in my work schedule and end my days
Yeah.
the way that I start them, with just quiet.
In the 80s, more the late 80s, early 90s, divorce was a big thing in the real estate industry. At least it was in Los Angeles. And it was because partly the culture of the time was to be, bumping, 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 just, really make it happen. And, it was the wolves of Wall Street at that time. But the concept of working 24 hours a day was a red badge of courage in our industry.
I think
And
it
it's
still
so great.
is.
I think it's changed a lot from my day, but it's so gratifying to see kick-ass agents such as yourself understanding so early in their career that it's important to have a life
Well, I
and to
didn't
enjoy
learn it
your
in
life.
my other career, so
Oh.
better late than never. Uh, yeah, I think that's something I see with a lot of agents, and I think I talked about that when I submitted a video for the Realvolve contest over the
Mhm,
holidays for how it's
mhm.
changed or why you love it. Um, it's a badge of honor for them to say, I'm so busy, or I'm working so hard, or I can't keep up. And I just look at them and I go, why? We're all doing the same thing. And yes, we're all busy. So why are you saying you're busy? Why aren't you figuring out a way to do it better? So
Mhm.
I don't see that when I see an agent running around acting busy. I don't necessarily equate that with success.
Right, 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 right. So, so given that we've said that and patted each other on the back for having a life,
Seriously,
what
far from perfect.
advice? Yeah, oh, so far from perfect. Yeah, I wear that crown. Okay. Um, what advice would you give to really smart, driven, brand new agent?
Definitely. Well, if you can work for someone as an assistant, that's what I did.
Mhm,
If you can work for someone and
mhm.
figure out some of the technical aspects of transactions, which I don't think a lot of brokers are good at teaching agents,
Right.
that'll give you a leg up for sure
Hmm.
against other agents that are just starting out. So that, and if you can't do that or don't want to do that, being really choosy about what brokerage you start with, and not being afraid to demand a lot for that commission split that you're giving them.
Right.
Uh, and
What
if they're
What
not
do you
giving it
think
to you,
they
leave.
what do you think they should be looking for in a brokerage?
What I think they should look for is an involved broker who is making sure that young, inexperienced agents aren't damaging their brand. I see that a lot where they're just sort of left to fend for themselves. A lot of agents leave in the first year. They just don't know what to do. They get frustrated. And they're just given a little smattering of support, but not really guided or mentored. So I think that would raise the bar of the entire profession if we
Right.
had more invested brokers that really watched what was going, but not from a judgmental point of view, more from a supportive point of view.
Right, 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 right. Okay. That's awesome. Awesome advice. What are some of the worst recommendations you hear out there for real estate agents, new or otherwise? We could talk for a lot on this one, but just some of the things that come top to mind.
I know we disagreed on this. I said door knocking,
And I'm like a door knocker, or at
I
least I
know,
used to.
and I think I need to quantify that by going back to not knowing what you're doing. A lot of people are taught just get out there, ask everybody for a referral, and you'll finally get one. And these agents scrape and get their first transaction, and then maybe their second, and they're just sitting there going, how are all these other agents being successful, and what are they doing that I'm not doing? And the advice is, well, just go knock on doors or send out postcards. Well, if you don't know what to put on the postcard or who you're targeting and you're just throwing money at things, um, you're not going to get anywhere. You're just going to get frustrated. So I think that's the worst advice, is not just do something. It's maybe pick one or two things and figure out how to do them really well. Like I stopped doing print. I now just do primarily internet advertising, and sphere advertising. So because I can't do everything really well, I need to figure out how to do a few things super, super well.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
maybe that's what I would advise, is don't just go out there and beat the bushes
Hmm.
relentlessly. If you don't know what you're doing, figure out, well, why? How do I talk to these 5 people instead of 50?
Right. So it sounds like you're saying don't do thoughtless motion,
Yeah. Yeah,
right?
and I think
Yeah.
a lot of us are guilty of that when we're starting out, because we see all of the success around us and we figure out, well, they can do that, I can do that. And you just think that working harder and not smarter is the way to get there. And you just get burned out, I think.
Right, right, right. And there's no lack of gurus who are telling you to do X, Y, or
Yeah,
Z,
exactly. Yeah.
right? With not necessarily all of the stuff behind that. In the last few years, what have you become better at saying no? to,
Oof.
or have you?
Um, redu an internal feeling that I need to reduce commissions for certain people.
Mm,
Uh,
okay, like maybe somebody who's your friend or you're
yeah,
related to.
a friend or a repeat client or
Hmm.
something like that.
Hmm.
I really feel like I've worked hard to bring value to my
Right.
services,
Hmm.
and that's where I spend most of my time. So when someone comes in asking me to discount that,
Hmm.
I feel like I've gotten really good at not just saying no, but explaining why I charge what I do.
Absolutely. You're getting really committed and knowledgeable about the
Yes.
value that you give, right?
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
it's a little bit of a heart-stopping moment when someone is asking you for a discount on your fee
Mm,
and you feel like they think they're entitled to it as a condition of your
yes.
relationship almost,
Yes. I've had
right?
that happen recently. And and it forces you to really look at what you are doing because
Right.
you do have to justify the money you're making.
Right.
Uh,
And there's a
so
difference between saying no and having complete confidence that no is the right thing to do because of the value that you have and you can articulate it.
right, and that's not to say I haven't. If I double end a transaction or have some other situation, I occasionally will do a slight discount, but I don't come in out of the gate offering that.
Right.
And I also
Right.
note that that's one of my scripts when someone's asking me for that is I'll explain that there are occasions where that warrant it, but I don't do it
This
out
is
of the
one of
gate.
them, buddy. There's occasions, but you weren't it.
Well, I say we'll address that if the time comes. And
So,
usually, usually the ones that if you do discount out of the gate, those usually end up being the hardest ones, and you're just going, why did I do that?
yeah, that
So
is so true.
I've learned that the hard way.
Such truth, such truth. Okay, so when you become overwhelmed, and let's just all call a spade a spade, this can be an overwhelming business,
Oh yeah.
even if you're the most detailed, systematic agent on the planet, it can get overwhelming. How do you get yourself back to center when those things happen? Or what do you do to make sure that you don't get off of center?
Um, well, a couple things. If it's something where I feel like I'm getting stressed out and I can just feel like my monkey brain is starting to jump, I automatically go to you need an afternoon off, and I'll go right to my calendar and I'll plug in a half day to just. I did that last, I think, a week or two ago where things were just going nutty, and I thought there's a window here. I can take Friday afternoon off, and I did. And of course, there were plenty of opportunities to fill that time, and I just said no, that's my time. I also schedule quarterly, about every 3 months, what I call a VIP day. And that's actually from that double double book, that concept of taking a day that's on the calendar where I brainstorm. I get whatever lunch I like. I get buy that ahead of time. I find whatever, whether it's fizzy water or tea or whatever it is that I may not have every day, but I really like. If it's ice cream, I'll buy ice cream, whatever it is. And
Now you're talking to me, baby.
whatever it's a VIP day for me,
Hmm.
and it's not that indulgent, but it feels indulgent when you're in this business and you work so
Hmm.
hard. And
Hmm.
I just put on music and I'll just brainstorm, and it's business related, so I'll talk about where do I want to be next year in my life, personally, professionally. It's just sort of wide open, big picture, and it reconnects me with some of those things that sometimes I lose touch with when things are really busy.
Right. Yeah, no, I totally get that. That is super awesome. So those are pretty much my questions that I had today. I don't know if there's any more questions. I think we're caught up on the questions over here. Are there any questions that you have for me, Paige?
I
Yeah,
guess
turn the table.
interesting. I think
Ooh,
one of the questions I have for you is you seem to be really innovative by nature, and you seem to be someone who looks,
mousetraps.
yeah, you seem to be always looking for a better way to do things. How do you balance that and stay grounded?
Um, so taking time off is a really hard thing for me. And it's not because it's not because the dog is wagging the tail, as it were. it's because I'm just a very curious person by nature. And if I don't have something planned that's personal, like the concept of an unstructured day off for me doesn't work. Because what happens is I'm like casting around, I'm like, I'm going to read a good science fiction book, and I'll wind up I'll be reading something, I'm like, oh, that reminds me of, and before I know it, I'm creating a blog post, or I'm shooting a
Right.
video, or or my favorite book right now is Never Lose a Customer. And so I'll dive into something like that, which is definitely not science fiction. And then I'm thinking, oh, the way I could increase the customer experience is this. Well, I should write a blog post about that. And I just need to design a whole number set of deliverables. It's just, give a
It's a
mouse a cookie.
curse.
Yeah, exactly. So the way that I've been handling what has become severe overwhelm is now I don't schedule a day off. This morning I am going to be redoing all the succulent pots. You know,
Hmm.
or I've gotten better about, like, I just bought tickets. I'm so excited. We're gonna go see Paul Simon at the
Oh,
Hollywood Bowl.
fun.
Woot, woot. And I'm somebody who never goes to concerts, like never. Like, that's a lot of people, that is a lot of traffic. That is just a lot of a
Yeah.
lot, right? Trying to be more scheduled and just as strategic and thoughtful about time off as I am about my business. That's helped. It's helped a lot.
I
I
think
actually
that's where the
take breaks.
VIP concept comes in because
I
it's
think
not
so.
unstructured.
Right.
There's a guide where you're trying to you're getting somewhere at the end of your time, but you're also taking care of yourself. And I think as real estate agents, a lot of us just we're secondary to what the client needs. Um, and we're just always there for them. So it
Hmm.
feels really indulgent and wrong sometimes to do something for yourself, unless it's a quick, I don't know, I don't do manicures, but a quick manicure, this or that. I don't do a lot of those kind of things. So it feels odd sometimes going, well, I'm just going to take time for myself. It's like, well, who do you think you are? That you
Right.
can do that.
Right.
Well, I
Right.
think it makes you a better agent if you take time off
Yes,
for
it's
yourself.
exactly true. Okay, well, I think that's pretty much all of our time today, unless there's other questions Laura she says you should get a pedicure instead of a
Yeah,
manicure.
that's on the list.
Actually, if you were in my area, I'd tell you to get a Chinese foot massage, because foot reflexology is like the bomb diggity. I'm just
Well, that's
saying.
tempting. Yeah, we don't show our bare feet very often in Montana until about May 15th. So so it's
Well,
probably
we're
due.
there. We're there. We're good.
We're here. The sun is out. There's no more snow right now.
For everybody, this has been recorded. If you want to revisit some of the nuggets that Paige dropped on us, and can you give us the website where you're going to put the links, and
Yes.
also how to get a hold of you? So what's your website, first of all?
It's montanagoodlife.com, all spelled out, all one word. So the agent intelligence links for the books and things will be montanagoodlife.com/agent dash intelligence. And you can reach me through that website. My Facebook page, I have a business page, which I use a lot, or page, PAGE, at montanagoodlife.com.
Okay, excellent. All right, you guys, you heard it here. Thank you so much, Paige,
Oh, thanks.
for
It's been great.
this was just tons of fun. And we'll be posting this webinar for everybody else. So until the next one, bye bye, guys. Thank you.